This video is going to look at the Dagger concept from Kevin O'Connell's offense. Dagger being one of Kevin O'Connell's favorite concepts to call, whether it be through play action or his dropback system. He uses it a variety of different ways, especially to isolate the hook defender and create a stretch both high and low on that hook window, and then hopefully get the ball to his most dynamic receivers, which in this case, a lot of times ended up being Justin Jefferson. The image that you see on the screen here comes from Bobby Peters' manual, the 2024 Minnesota Vikings Complete Offensive Manual. If you want to learn more about the Minnesota Vikings offense in 2024 or Kevin O'Connell's various ways he runs the concepts that we break down on this channel, I highly recommend that you seek out Bobby Peters' work. It's a phenomenal resource to use when using it to develop your own passing knowledge or your own offensive system. Now, when we're looking at this Dagger concept, the version that I have shown here on the screen is drawn up to attack two high safety structures. So if we're looking at two high safety structures, you'll see something like this, and that's what these two different routes by the F and the X are designed to do, which is to occupy these two safeties. But make no mistake about it, the intent of this play is to high-low this hook window. So the hook window, if you don't know what that is the window just behind this hook to curl player, which you see in a lot of different zone defense structures. In this case, you're likely going to get a nickel of some sort being in 3x1 or an outside linebacker. So the goal of this is to create a high-low stretch on this hook window or hook defender. And if this hook defender, for example, were to go back and play into the dagger window, then our quarterback can then come down and throw their flat control, in this case being a shallow. If for whatever reason the hook window decides, or hook window defender decides to sit down on the shallow, then he can instead throw the dagger right behind them. So the reason for the route design the way it is here by O'Connell is with this two high structure, he wants to make sure that these two safeties do not have the ability to drive on this dagger route. Because if they do, it could create a turnover for the defense or potentially a dangerous situation for the receiver and the quarterback throwing into it. So in order to occupy them, he uses this deep crosser by the F to hopefully hold this weak side safety. And then he uses this bender or through route here by the X to hold or influence this free safety here. And the goal is if you can occupy those two guys, then our high-low stretch on our hook becomes a lot more efficient. And the quarterback's read then becomes pretty simple, 1 to 2. Now you can see in some systems what they'll do is they'll alert this X receiver, where if they get a premium look, where for example, this free safety decides to sit, poach, or drop down here onto this dagger, you could potentially hit this window right behind them on this bender, but that's not always something that's going to be part of their base read progression. So this 3x1 concept here, again, is still designed mostly to look dagger down to the shallow based on however this hook defender moves either vertically or going more towards the shallow hook window. If they got some form of a one high safety structure, where there's this one safety in the middle of the field, you'll notice in our clips that O'Connell doesn't necessarily need to get into a 3x1 and use this number 3 receiver on a deep crosser. Now, sometimes he can then use this number 3 on more of a flat control, whether it be an arrow route, a whip route, a pivot route, however they want to do it. They could even do one of McVay's favorite routes, which is that flat return. You can do it however you want, but again, the goal is going to be you want to influence this hook window defender. So with one high safety, you might not see that number 3 receiver on the deep crosser, and instead you might focus more on using this Barry route or this bender to hold the free safety. And then the hope is, again, to still read this hook window to read 1 to 2, wherever that flat control may be. Let's take a look at the film and see how O'Connell used it in 2024. In this clip, you're going to see the Vikings run dagger, originally starting from a 3x1 set, but eventually going to run it out of 2x2. So once they get to this 2x2 picture, what appears to be a 2 high safety approach by the LA Rams is actually going to be treated more like a 1 high safety approach due to the movement and rotation from this field safety. Now, because of that rotation, you're going to still see Sam Darnold look at his front side concept, which in this case is going to be a version of smash. So he's going to hang on this first read play side, and then he's going to then look backside to his dagger concept. O'Connell will use dagger not always as a front side concept because it takes time in which to develop. So you'll have a primary read on the front side, an alert of some sort, then working back to the backside. Because it is a one high approach, you'll still see Jefferson running this dagger concept to the boundary. His landmarks might be a little bit more condensed because of the red zone, but this barrier route that's run by Brandon Powell is going to be more of the one high approach in which his goal is to cross the face of the field safety to again ensure that he cannot drive on the dagger route. And then you'll see Aaron Jones working this flat control. Now, as you can see here, although those are the routes, this guy and this defender down here is going to be their flat controlled player. And then you're going to see this middle linebacker here. He is going to be the hook window player. He's the defender that Darnold will read once he gets off his initial read, which is going to be this corner route. Once he gets off of that, now he's looking for this high-low stretch here to here, either going right to Jefferson or working back to the shallow here with Aaron Jones. As you can see, the corner route's taken away by Darnold. He gets to the second part of his progression. Powell is influencing the safety here, creating this window. As you can see, the linebacker is driving down on this flat control, which is more of like an option or a sit route. And as he does that, you can see the window right behind him opens up for Justin Jefferson on a deep completion. In this clip, the Vikings are once again going to use a play action approach here to dagger, in which they're going to run it out of a 3-by-1 set. They're going to run it in this case to the right side of the formation towards the field. In doing so, they're going to have Jordan Addison in this case as the receiver running the dagger. You're going to have the bury or through route here by number 2, which is Jalen Naylor. And you're going to see a delayed check release here. That's going to be our hook control from the tight end. And this is the defender here that they are trying to create that high-low stretch on. And this is a great approach here by the Vikings, knowing that backside here, you're going to have Justin Jefferson demanding two guys' attention. So as a result of that, if you use this barrier route to influence here, hopefully you can influence either this safety here or this safety here. And then in doing so, are able to then open up this window here for the dagger. Now this gives the illusion that, pre-snap looks a little bit like a 3-high safety approach. But as you can see, as the defenders get a little bit more set, this defender here is not acting like a safety. He's more of their nickel, who's going to be moving more down towards the coverage slot area. He's going to present initially like he could be the hook window defender, but he's going to be here for flat control. So you can see here as he's starting to go out to the flats, they're in a version of cover 3. And then you're going to see, again, this hook defender identify himself and then be stretched high to low here once Hawkinson is able, the tight end, to get out late. But you can see it's not until this defender comes out to occupy this hook window defender that the dagger opens up. Without it, you're just going to get these defenders dropping into your dagger window, and it's not going to be a very efficient concept. So either getting it to it through this delayed protection to help the quarterback, protect the pocket a little bit longer for these longer developing routes, however it might be, in doing so, again, you open up this window right behind for a big completion here to Jordan Addison. In this version of dagger, the Vikings start in a 3-by-1 set with a tight end. They're going to motion across Brandon Powell to get to, again, a 2-by-2 set. And in this case, they're going to run a play action version of dagger. Now, one of the things you're going to see in this concept here and in this clip, it is dagger to the right here towards the field. However, you're going to notice there is the absence of any sort of flat control. Now, I'm not sure why there isn't any flat control, whether this tight end was supposed to have that shallow route across, or whether or not Aaron Jones here was supposed to have some form of like a dash concept after the play action fake. For whatever reason, they don't get it. They're still able to make the completion here, but they are fitting it into a lot more difficult of a window because there isn't that stretch and that stress on that hook defender, which is why I chose this clip. Now, when you look here to the right, you're still going to see this dagger here at the top by Jordan Addison. You're going to see Brandon Powell again trying to work this bender route to bury this field safety. You're going to notice then the nickel defender is going to show up here into the flat area or the hook to curl window. And in this case, that hook to curl window defender is going to come from right here based on the structure of the defense and the fact that this defender here is playing more of the flat. That's one of the things you have to identify when running this concept is who is the flat defender and who is the hook defender here as well. The hook defender in this case is this middle linebacker, and that is the man you're going to have to read once this becomes a post-snap read. So once this happens, as you'll see here, the ball is going to be snapped. You're going to see the play action fake, which does pull up this linebacker for a second. But because this guy does not have anything that is threatening the underneath, the flat defender or the area underneath the hook, whether it be, again, from the backside or from Aaron Jones, the window he is able to drop into is a lot smaller here than for the dagger to come open. So this dagger becomes really, really deep. But as you can see, this hook window defender is continuing to drift because there is no defender underneath. Now, Oliver down here at the bottom of the screen could be trying to check out late into it, but by this point in time, it's too late, and it just takes a phenomenal throw here by Sam Darnold right into that window in order to get a completion. But again, that's why each component of the dagger is super important and is necessary in order for the concept to succeed, because if not, your margin for error and your windows become a lot more condensed. This last version of Dagger comes from the Kirk Cousins era, and it's very similar in design, almost identical to the design shown in the initial diagram. You're going to see this 3x1. The Dagger concept is going to be called here to the right side of the formation. Because of that, you're going to see here at the top of the screen, the dagger route, again, about 18 to 20 yards. You're going to see by the number 3 receiver, that deep over route, again, to influence this safety right here and keep him from driving on the dagger late. You're going to see that bury route here by the number 2, again, in hopes of influencing this defender right here. And you're going to notice here that almost these defenders are in a version of 2-man. So you're going to see them follow through here with this through route, and you're going to even see them trail here our dagger route. But then you're going to see over here the tight end running that shallow control here, coming all the way over to influence the hook player in this case. Doesn't exist because they are in man coverage or a version of 2-man, or as you're going to notice here, post snap, it's going to be a version of man free. So as you see this snap develop, you can see rotation here by the field safety. He's now coming down. He's going to man up the number 3 wide receiver. And you're going to see now this boundary safety work towards the middle of the field. Now, because you have this look here, it would not be out of the question, because you have a trail corner who's in the hip pocket here. It would not be out of the question to eliminate in your progression this dagger concept and work right away to your number 2, which is your shallow. Because as you can see here, there is a tremendous amount of space underneath all the way over to here, which makes this, again, a very good concept, not only to beat zones, but as you can see here, it's also a very good man beater, because you are having a defender here, a corner, have to chase all the way across the field our shallow runner. And that's why shallow has always been a great man beater. And in this case, it's a great way to protect your dagger concept. So as you can see this again develop here, Cousins drops back. He chooses not to go down to this shallow route and instead trusts his dagger route to come open late. And he does, and fits it into a tight window for a very good completion for the Vikings. So those are the different ways, and there's many more that Kevin O'Connell will dress up the dagger concept. Again, for more information on that, check out Bobby Peters' 2024 Minnesota Vikings Complete Offensive Manual. He does a fantastic job on that. And for more Kevin O'Connell offensive concepts and tips, go ahead and subscribe to this channel and look for future videos to be made.